Our town, Helena and West Helena, and America as a whole, is facing a crisis of astronomical proportion. Washington is in gridlock. The U.S. Congress has been corrupted by corporate and Wall Street money. All the while, the citizens of Helena and West Helena and America need help right now. I say that institutions made by man may fail us, but God will never fail us. We the people are what made America the great country it has become, because in God we trusted. Citizens of Helena and West Helena and America, we must trust in God again. When African Americans were in slavery, in God we trusted, both black and white people, to rid our great country of the inhumane practice of using the Negro as a slave. One of our greatest presidents in U.S. history, Abraham Lincoln, gave his life not for his own selfish purpose, but for the unselfish creed of the Declaration of Independence, that all men are created equal, which resonated loudly when he gave the Gettysburg Address on November 19, 1863. In the first paragraph, Lincoln says, "Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty, and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal." The battle cry for equality that seemed to possess Lincoln was cried again by Dr. Martin Luther King on August 28, 1963, on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial during the March on Washington. Dr. King says in an excerpt from his speech, "I have a dream that one day this nation will rise and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit together at a table of brotherhood. Brotherhood of all Americans, I believe, was the dream of our forefathers, which inspired Dr. Martin Luther King. So at this time, I call both black and white to sit down with me at a table of brotherhood together to move forward in the cause of fulfilling the dream of our forefathers, that all men are created equal." The Declaration of Independence was the most perfect document that our forefathers could come up with at the time, which is still an excellent document to this day. Their dream that all men are created equal has been gradually coming true as this living document, the Declaration of Independence, has evolved in the minds and actions of all U.S. citizens, compelling Americans to let our conscience be our guide in the self-fulfilling prophecy of making our country a more perfect union. In times of crises, we go back to such divinely inspired documents such as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution to seek guidance, to navigate us through these turbulent issues which seek to threaten our American way of life. We have come to a pivotal point in American history, as where the American way of life is being threatened again by enemies, both foreign and domestic, at a rate never before seen in American history. Within the last 5 decades, never have I seen a worse president than George W. Bush, the root of this crisis. He sent America to war without any real proof that Iraq had nuclear weapons. He unwisely squandered the surplus left behind by the Clinton presidency. He gave these exuberant tax cuts for the wealthy. I say that some people have gotten amnesia, but to be fair with Mr. Bush, he didn't cause all the woes of this crisis, but certainly he threw a lot of the fuel on the fire. And for all those mad and fiery hot, because President Obama is president, blaming on Mr. Bush, he did it. thousands of lives were lost because of Mr. Bush's incompetence in handling the Iraq War. Now, a person who makes unwise decisions with his money shall soon depart with his money. But he didn't depart with his money, only the money of the American people, which ended America up in the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression of 1929 under the Herbert Hoover administration. In the righteous cause of justice, I say that President Obama is not the cause of this ailing economy. I say that our economy is still suffering the aftershocks from the Bush earthquake that started in January 2000 when he was elected and inaugurated. Not only is America still suffering the economic aftershocks, the world is still suffering these aftershocks, not only economically, but also in the arena of foreign policy, which he failed poorly again. Now, if Osama bin Laden, the terrorist mastermind behind 9/11, was supposedly in Afghanistan, why would you go to war with Iraq? I thought we were looking for Osama. Now, the question I have to ask, was we looking for Osama or was we looking for oil? Now, after the Bush earthquake, now the American people are dealing with the devastating winds and rains from Category 6 Hurricane Do-Nothing Congress, who seem hell-bent on destroying President Obama worse than Katrina did New Orleans. And I say to the American people, it's time to rebuild our levees in Congress and strengthen our dams of government. Because when this Congress rains, it pours. Another crisis we are dealing with in America is prejudice. We seem to like to measure men in race, religion, and also gender. Now, even though I think we as Americans have made major achievements in all these areas stated above, I still believe we have far to go in these areas in order to achieve brotherhood. It is my belief that racism is a tool of the devil used to keep us divided as Americans as well as children of God. It is also true that some very horrendous crimes have been committed against people just because of their race. But we must not stay stuck on the horrendous crimes of the past. Rather, we should pursue the beautiful cause of justice in our present and future. We all have a past as individuals and as a country, but we must strive towards freedom together, hand in hand. David was highly favored by God, even though David had sinned. He sent one of his soldiers to the front of the army to be killed because David wanted the soldier's wife Bathsheba. But even though David had committed this act of sin, God searched David's heart and found it still to be conscious and sorrowful for the crime of passion. Why did God still favor David after he sinned? Because God knows all and is all. Therefore, it is his sole right to judge his creations as he sees fit, not as people see fit. It is my adamant belief that godly people should guide our country forward, and I am a strong believer in Jesus Christ. Even though I believe this, I also believe that America is a country where people can practice their religion in a peaceful way without persecution from government, rather their religion be Islam, Buddhism, or Christianity, etc. It is not my place as an American or as a child of God to persecute anyone because of their religion. There comes a time when the great cause of justice calls for us as American citizens to be more than what we are, to explore new frontiers that have never been explored, and challenge ourselves to limits we never thought possible. In order to defeat injustice, not only in America, but around the world, only by being more than a conqueror can we as Americans take evolutionary leaps and bounds in achieving righteousness. We as citizens over America are all kinsmen in one great nation. All 50 states joined in one brotherhood under one flag. So I believe in order to effect change, for us to have a prosperous America, reform not only needs to happen in Washington or on Wall Street, but we the people must take an aggressive effort in reforming our own local governments, making local governments run more efficient. The better efficient the cities and the state runs, the better the state itself runs. So I say to citizens of towns and cities, move and organize to make your towns and cities' local government run more effectively. We as citizens of Helena and West Helena have too long been tricked and bamboozled by those in power. The promise of jobs that never come, the promise of money from lawsuits that we all didn't get. I wonder what happened to the money. If you want your money, it's time to organize and stop letting them take advantage of us. They're steady stealing money from positions in which we the people put them in good faith and trust. Yet what do we the people get? Nothing. It is the money of the citizens which pay the salaries in government and the businesses around here. Without us, there is no mayor, city council, or business because we the people all work to make this city function. It is time for us, we the people, to get more serious with local government and business in order to make our town more prosperous. I feel as though it is my civic duty to abreast all of America on the injustice and corruption that partakes in our town. Because from the smallest town to the biggest city, if we let these types of injustice take place in one town in America, then the chain that links us all is weakened. And if there is one weak link in the chain, the whole chain is in jeopardy. So I feel it my civic duty to address these issues and unfair practices against the townspeople with the utmost urgency. And I ask that the citizens of my town and America aid me and fight for equality and justice for all, to be your brother's keeper in West Helena and America. I ask that we come to the assistance of each other in the cause of bettering our towns and cities all over America. I'm saying to the citizens of America that our town, Helena and West Helena, has been corrupted and plagued by crime so bad that federal agents came down here in a sweep called Operation Delta Blues, as where police officers were arrested for being involved with the distribution of illegal drugs, such as cocaine and crystal meth. And a slew of others were involved in this, as where the feds brought this small drug cartel, as well as lucrative cartel in Helena and West Helena, down to his knees. Police harassment and brutality runs rampant down here in this impoverished town in the Delta. They exploit and brutalize the poor minority because they know that a lot of us in Helena and West Helena don't know the law and don't have the clout or financial backing to get anything done about it. But one thing the people have is a voice in Raymond Williams. And even if it costs my life, I'm going to speak up for those who wouldn't ordinarily have a voice. The greatest service I can give to my fellow citizens of Helena and West Helena is my blood, sweat, and tears. I promise the citizens of our town that if you stand with me, change will happen and prosperity will be on the horizon. But only if we move. If movement takes place, then that means we have faith. Because faith without works is dead. Then it must also mean that faith with works is very much alive. It's time to stop letting them bully us. Mr. Mayor, you are the one who's supposed to enact justice for us, the people. If the mayor does not enact justice and practice prosperity for all citizens in Helena and West Helena, then he must be voted out. If the city council cannot cooperate in favor of the people, they must be voted out. Only by the citizens waking up and becoming aware can we take our town back from corruption.